Manhattan, the epicenter of New York City and the financial capital of the world, a place of nonstop hustle and bustle, and home to 1.6 million people. It's hard to believe that this concrete jungle once looked like this. Let's take a look back at the humble beginnings of Manhattan and New York City, back when the Times Square area was a beaver pond, when the busy city streets used to be hunting and trading trails, or when skyscrapers used to be Dutch farms and windmills. Let's see how this vast forest turned into a Dutch settlement. Before any European settlers came to New York, the Lenni Lenape tribes lived in the areas of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania for about 1,500 years. They were village-dwelling people who spoke two closely related dialects in the Algonquin language group. They were hunters and gatherers and established an important village and trading post in the area of current-day Greenwich Village. They had trading and hunting paths all around current-day NYC that would eventually become important roads like Flatbush Ave and Broadway. The Lenape people took full advantage of the vast resources on Manhattan Island, which they called Manhattan or Hilly Island. Back then, fish were abundant. 12-inch oysters and lobsters over 5 feet long were commonly pulled from the surrounding waters. In fact, lobsters were so plentiful that it was a common meal for the poor. The island was a forest with fruits and nuts available. Animals like wolves, otters, beavers, minks, and bears would roam. Hard to imagine bears and wolves roaming around Manhattan now. The only bears roaming the island now are these type of bears. The first European visitor to the area was explorer Giovanni Verrazzano. Verrazzano, if you can't tell by his name, was Italian. Though he was Italian, Verrazzano lived and worked in France, and in 1523 was commissioned by the French to discover a passage to Asia through the New World. In late 1523, Verrazzano sailed from France and landed in present-day North Carolina. He traveled the eastern seaboard looking for a northwest passage to Asia. On April 17, 1524, Verrazzano reached New York Bay. He and his crew are the first known Europeans to set their eyes on New York Harbor in current-day New York City. When Verrazzano and crew sailed into New York Harbor, he encountered the Lenape people. This is what Verrazzano had to say about this initial interaction.
They came towards us very cheerfully, making great shouts of admiration, showing us where we could come to land most safely with our boat.
Due to a sudden change in winds, Verrazzano left as quickly as he arrived, continuing his voyage up the East Coast towards Massachusetts, still looking for that northwest passage to Asia. Verrazzano named the area Angoulême, the family name of King Francis. In September of 1609, 85 years after Verrazzano visited New York Harbor, one of the most important events in New York City development occurred when Henry Hudson, an English-born explorer sailing for the Dutch, entered New York Harbor aboard the Half Moon. Like Verrazzano, Hudson was looking for a passage to Asia. Hudson and crew began a journey up to what is now known as the Hudson River, up to present-day Albany. On September 23rd, Hudson decided to return to Europe. On his way back to the Netherlands, Hudson was detained by British authorities who wanted access to his logbooks. He managed to pass these logs to the Dutch ambassador to England, who sent it to Amsterdam. What was in these logbooks and reports was very important. While sailing up the river from NYC to Albany, Hudson had taken note of the abundant beaver population in the area. Beaver pelts were very much in fashion in Europe at the time and a very lucrative business. This report on the regional beaver population served as the impetus for the founding of Dutch trading colonies in the New World. The beaver's importance in New York City history is reflected by its use on the city's official seal. Not many people realize that NYC owes its start to the beaver. The first Dutch fur trading post and settlement was established near present-day Albany in 1624. That was the first year that New Netherland first appeared on maps. a permanent European presence in New York City started in 1624 with the establishment of a Dutch fur trading settlement on Governor's Island off the southern tip of Manhattan. In 1625, construction was started on Fort Amsterdam on Manhattan, later called New Amsterdam, in what is now Lower Manhattan. Here's a cool picture of the precise location of New Amsterdam on top of a modern map. If you look closely at this picture, it's interesting to see how much landfill that has been added over the years. The fort was strategically placed at the mouth of the North River, now Hudson River, in order to protect the fur trade operations of the Dutch West India Company from England and France, which also conducted beaver trade operations in North America. England in particular had laid claim to the region as well. More on that later. With the help of slave labor, construction on Fort Amsterdam was completed. The fort had bastions on each corner to better protect the walls. The establishment of Fort Amsterdam at the southern tip of Manhattan is recognized as the birth of New York City. The fort became the nucleus of the New Amsterdam settlement, and its mission was protecting the New Netherland Hudson River operations. Although its main function was military, it also served as the center of trading activity. The north side of New Amsterdam was protected by a 6-foot-high wall. While initially a defensive structure, the area around it evolved into a vital hub of social and commercial life. This transformation led to the famous financial street, Wall Street. In 1626, it is believed that Peter Minuit, the then director of the Dutch West India Company, purchased the island of Manhattan from native representatives for 60 guilders worth of goods, about $1,000 today. The original inhabitants of the area were unfamiliar with the European definitions of ownership rights. For the Indians, water, air, and land could not truly be traded. Such exchanges would also be difficult in practical terms because many groups migrated between their summer and winter quarters. It can be concluded that both parties probably went home with totally different interpretations of the sales agreement, leading to many disagreements and skirmishes over the following decades, and probably best explains the small purchase price. In the 1630s, the Dutch expanded their presence in the area, with setting up settlements in current-day Brooklyn, Bronx, and Staten Island. With this expansion, more issues with the native Lenapes occurred, including the Kief's War from 1643 to 1645, named after then governor of New Amsterdam, William Kieft. This turbulent period resulted in significant losses for both Dutch settlers and Native Americans, further declining Native American presence in the area. By 1650, New Amsterdam's population grew to over 1,000. This growth stemmed from its evolving status as a critical trade and commercial center with a diverse population. In 1653, New Amsterdam was formally chartered as a city by the Dutch government, marking its evolution from a trading post to an organized urban entity. Here is the first seal of New Amsterdam, which of course has a beaver on it. The 1650s saw continued population growth from different groups seeking religious freedoms, which contributed significantly to the colony's cultural diversity. This population growth led to new settlements in current-day Queens and New Harlem in northern Manhattan. On August 27, 1664, 4 English frigates sailed into New Amsterdam's harbor and demanded New Netherlands surrender. The Dutch delegates, led by Dutch Governor Peter Stuyvesant, didn't offer resistance, with the signing of the Articles of Surrender of New Netherland, which handed over New Netherland to the Kingdom of England. In 1665, New Amsterdam was reincorporated under English law as New York City, named after the Duke of York. In 1673, during the Third Anglo-Dutch War, the Dutch briefly retook the colony of New Netherland. New York City was renamed once again to New Orange, but after the Treaty of Westminster in 1674 gave control of the area back to England and reverted the names of New Amsterdam back to New York and New Orange back to New York City. New York City continued to grow and remained under English rule into the American Revolution. New York City's humble beginnings is well represented in its flag, with the use of the Dutch colors, the representation of a sailor, Native American, windmill, barrels of flour, and American eagle. The year 1625, which is the start of New Amsterdam, and of course, a beaver. It's hard to imagine that something that looks like this used to look like this. Thanks for watching the humble beginnings of Manhattan Island and New York City. I appreciate it. Please subscribe, for more fun history videos. Thanks.